certainly told us plenty. Head coach Dan Quinn stepped up to the podium before practice and delivered a genuinely exciting update on his franchise quarterback, and then the Commanders went out and backed it up on the field. We are breaking down everything from that first padded practice, an emerging star at linebacker, a resurgent offensive lineman, and a kicking battle that remains locked in a dead heat. Let's get into it. Quinn opened his pre-practice press conference with a couple of encouraging injury notes, revealing that updates on cornerback Trey Amos and punter Tress Way, both currently working their way back on the physically unable to perform list, are expected to come Thursday as the team continues evaluating whether they are ready to return to practice. That timeline suggests both players are genuinely close to getting back on the field, which is exactly the kind of update this fan base wants to hear, given how thin this roster has looked at certain spots through the opening stretch of camp. But the real headline out of that press conference was Quinn's assessment of quarterback Jayden Daniels. According to Quinn, Daniels is ahead of schedule in picking up the new offense being installed by first-year offensive coordinator David Blough. And that is a genuinely meaningful statement given just how much this offensive system is changing stylistically. Blough is bringing a scheme built around far more under-center snaps, heavier play-action concepts, and a more diverse overall run game, representing a real departure from what Daniels has typically operated in throughout his career to this point. This marks essentially the first time in his career that Daniels is being asked to take the clear majority of his snaps from under center, which comes with real footwork and timing adjustments that take real repetition to fully master. According to Quinn, Daniels is already in a genuinely strong place mentally with all of it, picking up the verbiage, the checks, and the overall structure of this offense faster than anticipated heading into the regular season opener against the Eagles. Now, it is fair to view any praise from a head coach with a little bit of healthy skepticism, since no coach is ever going to stand at a podium and publicly criticize his own franchise quarterback's ability to learn a playbook. But this is not simply one coach's word in a vacuum. It lines up with what teammates have been saying, and more importantly, it lines up with what has actually been showing up on the practice field in recent sessions. During Monday's red zone period specifically, Daniels and receiver Terry McLaurin were putting on an absolute clinic, connecting for touchdown after touchdown. McLaurin, who earned second-team All-Pro recognition just 2 seasons ago during Daniels' rookie campaign, has continued proving exactly what he is capable of with a genuinely elite quarterback throwing him the football. And now, with Daniels fully healthy and growing more comfortable inside this new offensive system by the day, this specific connection looks primed for a real breakout season. Monday's red zone period alone produced 3 separate touchdowns from Daniels to McLaurin, with reports indicating the coverage on some of those reps was actually fairly solid, but McLaurin simply kept coming down with contested, toe-tapping grabs regardless. That is exactly the kind of chemistry this fan base wants to see building heading into the regular season. Elsewhere on offense, running back Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt continued showing real, tangible improvement in an area that had previously been a genuine weakness in his game. His hands had been inconsistent dating back to his college career and carried over into some rocky moments during his rookie season. But he made a couple of clean, confident catches out of the flat on Monday, another encouraging sign that this offense may be able to feature him as a more complete, multi-dimensional weapon than originally expected heading into this season. Up front, right guard Sam Cosmi delivered maybe the single most encouraging individual performance of the entire day. Cosmi is working his way back from a serious injury suffered a couple seasons ago, one that he attempted to play through during a partial return last season without ever quite looking like his true self. But after a genuinely healthy, fully uninterrupted offseason, Cosmi looked like a completely different player in one-on-one blocking drills Monday, physically overpowering and driving back defenders with a kind of dominance that once made him a legitimate Pro Bowl caliber talent at his position. If that version of Cosmi has genuinely returned, it represents a massive potentially underrated boost for this entire offensive line heading into the season. On the other side of that line, the competition at guard between Brandon Coleman and Chris Paul continues playing out in real time, with Coleman currently appearing to hold a slight edge, earning more consistent first-team reps through this stretch of camp. Given the real draft investment this front office made in Coleman a couple years ago, there is a reasonable belief that this coaching staff would genuinely prefer to see him claim that job outright. Paul, meanwhile, remains a legitimate, capable safety net at that spot, having actually outplayed Coleman at times during the previous season. Regardless of how that specific competition ultimately resolves, having two viable options competing for that job is a genuinely healthy problem for this coaching staff to have. There was also a fun wrinkle worth mentioning from Monday's practice. Offensive coordinator David Blough, who built a real reputation for incorporating trick plays during his time as an assistant under the previous coaching staff, and who is clearly drawing some stylistic inspiration from some of the more creative offensive minds around this league, unveiled an early look at a wide receiver pass, with rookie receiver Antonio Williams reportedly throwing the football on the play. It is a small, fun detail, but it speaks to the kind of creative wrinkles Blough intends to keep in his back pocket as legitimate staples of this offense moving forward. And speaking of Williams, he continues building real momentum as a legitimate slot specialist within this offense, showing off sharp footwork and real explosiveness out of his breaks that has genuinely caught the attention of everybody watching practice. At this point, it looks like a near certainty that Williams will be part of this team's starting receiver rotation once the regular season begins against Philadelphia. Now let's shift over to the defense, because this unit has genuinely been playing lights out through the opening stretch of camp, and Monday continued that trend. Rookie linebacker Sonny Styles turned in his best practice of the entire camp on this first day in full pads, and it is genuinely exciting to think about what he could eventually become within this scheme. His combination of size, closing speed, and overall versatility is going to allow new defensive coordinator Durante Jones to get genuinely creative with post-snap rotations designed to confuse opposing quarterbacks. Styles has the physical strength to hold up taking on blocks as a true run defender, but he also has legitimate sideline-to-sideline range that allows this coaching staff to move him fluidly between a traditional linebacker alignment, a deep safety look, or even some snaps in the slot depending on what a given game plan calls for. On Monday specifically, Styles was blowing up run plays consistently while also showing real comfort in pass coverage. There is a genuine belief building that Styles could end up handling the green dot leadership responsibility on this defense by the time the regular season begins, stepping into a role vacated by a respected veteran linebacker who is no longer with this organization. Cornerback Mike Sainristil also continued making real plays on Monday, breaking up passes during that red zone period and consistently making both Daniels and McLaurin work extremely hard for every completion, even on the reps where McLaurin ultimately came out on top. That kind of tight physical coverage represents a real step forward from some of Sainristil's earlier moments in the league. There is a growing belief that keeping him locked in primarily at outside cornerback rather than shifting him back into more of a slot role like he played in college is going to unlock the best version of his game this season. The outside linebacker group also had a genuinely strong day collectively. Edge rushers Odafe Owe and K'Lavon Chaisson, along with rookie Joshua Josephs, all turned in strong performances Monday, continuing a trend that has apparently held up throughout this entire camp, even before pads were involved. Josephs in particular continues building real momentum as a potential eventual successor at this team's designated pass rushing role, batting down a pass and generating consistent pressure, working with the second-team unit. Keep a close eye on him as this team transitions into preseason game action. And finally, some genuinely encouraging news out of the kicking competition. Both Jake Moody and rookie kicker Drew Stevens made every single attempt during Monday's practice, extending what has already been a genuinely confident stretch of camp at that position. Moody, who served as this team's kicker down the stretch last season and only missed a couple of attempts during that span, has not missed a single kick through this entire camp to this point. Moody was once viewed as a highly regarded kicking prospect coming out of college before bouncing around the league through a couple of earlier, inconsistent stops. This organization brought him back on a smaller contract for a specific reason, believing he genuinely has what it takes to be a legitimate long-term starting kicker in this league, and so far, every indication through camp supports that belief. Stevens remains a real threat to push him, though, and this competition figures to remain genuinely compelling all the way into the preseason, when live stadium conditions will carry real added weight in the final decision. So that is everything worth knowing from the first day in full pads at Commanders training camp. Faithful, a head coach publicly confident in his quarterback's development, a red zone connection between Daniels and McLaurin that already looks lethal, a resurgent offensive lineman who could be the biggest surprise on this entire roster, a rookie linebacker building real momentum toward a leadership role, and a kicking competition that remains genuinely too close to call. Let me know down in the comments which storyline from today has you most excited heading into the rest of camp. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit that subscribe button for daily Commanders training camp coverage, because we are not missing a single update between now and week 1. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next one. Hail to the Commanders!